All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 129 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are joining us here on this Wednesday evening, or if you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of this content could be relevant for anyone in your circle or in your network, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Well, as you guys know, we are kicking off tonight our mental health awareness series. We have been kind of in the process of it, but haven't started our interviews yet. And so I am ecstatic tonight to have, like I said, these two amazing ladies here with us to kick off this series. To start, I have Dr. April Lisbon. She is an autism coach, strategist, and an empowerment speaker. And then we also have Dr. Allie, who is here. She is an autism parenting strategist, a transformational speaker, and a certified professional coach. So welcome, ladies. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the air. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to have you guys, and you guys have done so many things. I mean, there's so many layers to you ladies that I would like you to take just a moment to kind of share with the audience a little bit more about your background, your space, and how that kind of plays into mental health as a whole as well.
Sounds good. So, Dr. Ali, if you wouldn't mind me getting started, I will. As Tammy has already explained, my name is Dr. April J. Lisbon. In addition to being an autism coach strategist, I am also a professionally trained school psychologist. I have been a veteran school psychologist for the last 19 years, working in public education with children ages 3 through 22. So I am very familiar with mental health and the implications that it means for family and for children as far as learning and growing and developing. I am also the mother of 3 beautiful children. My oldest son actually has a diagnosis of autism as well as dyslexia. So not only do I experience this on the job, but this is my lived story. So I'm excited to be here with your audience and to share more as we really dive deep into mental health during the month of May.
Thank you so much, April.
And I am Dr. Alisha Griffith. Most affectionately call me Dr. Allie. By trade, I'm an audiologist and speech language pathologist, having served families and different companies, businesses in the terms of communication strategies for close to 20 years. But out of everything else, my most precious title is being an amazing mom. I'm Zachary's mom, and he was diagnosed with being on the spectrum around the age of 3. Being a professional, working with families with children with autism, helping them to communicate for years, way before having him. Never in the world would I have expected my perfect little baby boy, who I thought in my head was 10 fingers, 10 toes, everything there. I would start seeing the same symptoms that I'm there helping families with. So through that process, through that journey, many years of discovering and healing myself, going through sadness, going through guilt, going through shame, even as a professional, starting to finally do personal development and working on myself, did I start understanding the true gift of what autism was in my life and what he was, and the poor pressure I was putting on him. So using all these strategies, I began to help other moms, other autism moms do more speaking, became an author of Amazing Gift, a journey to autism acceptance, and just going out there and empowering the world with what amazingness our children have, and how about embracing differences instead of looking at it as something that's not acceptable. Every once in a while, you're going to hear my amazing gift in the background. So that is my child. I'm an autism mom and professional, and you will always hear Zachary somewhere in my world.
I love it. I love it. And, I guess so to start this evening, as I say, when the audience tunes in a lot of times, and especially when people are new to the different abilities world, you know what I'm saying? And they get a diagnosis, and that happens. As you guys know, a lot of times there's that that beginning mourning process and figuring out, and life kind of feels like a hurricane, a typhoon, and everything mixed together all at one time. And both of you being in the circle. So, you being a speech, an audiologist, and being in that circle of that medical world, you already being a school psychologist, you know what I'm saying? And being in that world and dealing with families already. How did you guys receive it when it happened? Because, you guys were already kind of touched in the world of this, and then it actually happened in your everyday life. So whichever one you want to take the floor first on that.
I love it. So how did I handle it? I will always say every time Zachary lined up his trains, I would be the one messing it up. Because every time I'd see him start spinning, I would hold him and tell him to stop. When he would start flickering all the lights on and he would do his toe walking, which are all some symptoms of children on the spectrum, I would try and unravel it so it would not be. I did not want this thing. I did not want this doomsday thing, which I thought of what is called autism. Mm-hmm. It was hard. I went through depression. I was sad. And even though I was going to work, functioning as a professional, I would come home, close the doors, and be in tears, like full-blown tears of the chaos, the breakdown that I felt that was going on in my life, because here I was dealing with something, not even him. It was just mostly me and my perception of what was really happening here in my life. It was the death to me of a perfect child. And from there, it was just years and years of living in a facade, going outside, serving in the professional world, helping people to maximum capacity, and then coming home and dealing with the unravelness, dealing with seeing these symptoms, dealing with the pain, the hurt of not having this quote unquote normal child I was supposed to have in my dreams.
Right, right.
For me, on the other hand, I was the person doing the diagnosing. And still, just to preface that, so my son never really had any of the hallmarkers related to being on the spectrum, except for some stimming. I thought that he was just doing that because we had a family history of language disorders. So I was like, well, he's just language impairment, and that's how he communicates. The first time I heard autism was when he was about to be kicked out of preschool at age 2. And the person who told me that, I was like, I'm the person who made that diagnosis. How in the world can you tell me that my child is on the spectrum? I couldn't deal with it because he didn't fill out that checklist that I was used to completing as a school psychologist and supporting other families with. That just wasn't my child. And even through the process of, hearing it over and over again, I was always looking for the one thing where it would shift. Even once he got into 5th grade, I was like, by the time you get into 5th grade, because I'll be honest with you, I accept the autism diagnosis educationally because I felt like he would have outgrown it. And what I mean by that is that he would have gotten all the supports and services that was necessary educationally, and he would have been fine. And the autism would have just gone away. And so for me, just like Dr. Ali, I was depressed. I was sad. I questioned why me. I felt like an imposter as an educator because here I am providing all these strategies to all these parents, and I couldn't even support my own child. And my journey finally came to a halt when I finally heard at age 10, the autism isn't going away. And then that's when I finally started to embrace it. So it took from ages 2 to 10 before I finally accepted as a mom that my child was on the spectrum. So it literally took 8 long years of trying to fix him, which there was nothing wrong with him. It was all about me, being willing to accept it because of what I saw in education. I wanted to fix him and make him better so that he didn't fit the stigma that came with autism. And so by the time he turned 10, I finally accepted it, and I have a child with autism, and it's beautiful. It's okay. I finally got to a point where it was okay, and I was happy about it. But it took 8 long years from start to finish.
And I would say it is around that 7 or 8 year mark where you kind of get your grip a little bit of your grip, like some of your, the tornado isn't spinning quite as fast anymore, and the education and the knowledge is coming to you, and you feel like you're a little bit more in your lane. You're not sprawled all out over the road, and that all comes together. But when we talk about mental health and we talk about that sadness, you know what I'm saying, for parents, and during those times of learning, kind of in those trenches, of feeling, what do you think when you came out of that? So now you're in acceptance, right? You're there saying, my child has autism. This is awesome. I'm going to look at this, and the positives and all this. And all those friends that you had and all those people that used to be there, and you know what I'm saying, are no longer there because there's so much alienation that comes along with this. Did you guys find that when you guys came to the point of actually the acceptance and moving forward and in that positive manner, that you still had those pool of friends and people within your circle that still didn't understand, leaving you to still have some of that sadness?
You know what? Absolutely. Not only friends, but also family. Because when they look at my son, the first thing they say is that he doesn't look like he's autistic. And so that kind of sort of puts you in a place and in the funk where you're like, well, what does autism really look like if he doesn't look like he's autistic, And so having to fight that battle with people to try and convince them that, yes, my child is on the spectrum, just creates this space of, once again, the guilt, the sadness, and the depression. So honestly, and a lot of autism parents will tell you, we stick to ourselves or within our own community because people still don't accept us, even years later, even after hearing the diagnosis over and over and over again. If people don't believe it, then they're not really that supportive of you. I don't know if that's what Dr. Ali has experienced, but I know for me personally, people, they want to be there for you, but they really don't know how to be there for you because it's like, but he doesn't look autistic. And it's like, well, what does autism really look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that question always kills me. So for me, actually, it was different, right? And I love the way we have these different stories because that's what autism is truly unique experiences, and we never know what really is going to be the responses. So for me, I had family, I had friends that were trying to understand. They were trying to help me. They were trying to reach out. So they're there like their hands out, trying to get to me. And I'm just like, I don't want it. I got this. Leave me alone. I chose, it wasn't until later on, this is totally hindsight through personal development, through my own coaching, through understanding what I was doing. I didn't want to accept the help. I thought that I want to take care of this. I don't want anyone else to do this. They can't do it as like how I can. They don't really understand what's going on. They say they understand, but they don't really, really understand. And that was my thoughts exactly. So as they were reaching out to me and I was swatting their hands away, like, no, I got this. I'm Superwoman. I can take care of everything. That's when the overwhelm started to happen. That's when I started to go into, I have a lot on my plate and here I am still trying to handle this child. And part of my discovery, part of my own self-work was understanding that I cannot do this thing alone. Like this whole putting myself on an island thing with him, looking at everyone else in the water, trying to help us. And I'm there like, no, we got this. No, we're fine. Meanwhile, I'm like drowning on the inside. It wasn't going to work anymore. And I began to let them in slowly. That's why, that's the main reason I do a lot of coaching with autism moms. So I can help them process this. If you don't get yourself together, sister, you're not going to be able to help your child. So I had to get me together to be able to accept the help first before anything else. Everyone else could hand help, but if I'm not accepting it, then we're null and void. And through that work, realizing that, okay, I can trust someone. Oh my goodness, we don't trust anyone with our children either. So that was another thing. It's like, we are the only ones that think that we can take care of our children because we got this. We know what makes them mad. We know what gets them sad. We worked out this whole system and you don't know the system. Well, how else are they going to learn the system unless we start teaching them and showing them? So it began with coaching one mom, and then it began with coaching a group of moms, and then it began with, wait a minute, I'm on social media sharing and coaching the world, where it became not that they didn't want to accept us, because no, there's still some out there that are just not quite ready. I'm not even going to focus on them. But the ones that are ready, who want to know, and I actually surprisingly did put out a blog on this today, on how do we help people out there who want to help us? How do we help them to not feel uncomfortable when they're around us, where they want to ask you, sis, do you need help? But they're scared that you're going to bark at them or yell at them. So it's a two-way direction in terms of how we're going to maximize this child and get them to where they need, and how I can feel like I can breathe again amongst people.
Mm-hmm. And when you got to that point, did you feel by sharing that helped your mental health, being able to express? The more you talked about it, the more you shared, the more people said, oh, really? You know what I'm saying? And they started to repeat things you said.
Me too. I have a cousin like this. I have a friend like this. It wasn't until I started saying it that I realized how many friends I had that were truly impacted. And it was like, exactly as you're saying, if we don't say anything, then there's nothing for anyone to relate with. So we got to open up our mouth. But most of us are so afraid or ashamed of saying the word autism and ourselves in the same line that we forget the aspect that that's how we get others to actually identify with some of the things. It's almost closer than 2 degrees of separation at this point, where if it's not someone you know that has autism or a special need, it's someone who knows someone. That's 2.
Mm-hmm. Very, very true. And, you know, as you guys are speaking about the autism, my son, if you look at him on social media and whatnot, he very much has an invisible disability. What does a brain injury look like? So, you know what I'm saying? When they hear you have a brain injury, they expect it to look a certain way. They don't expect him to be a 6'1", 230-pound, walking, talking just like me, adult male. You know, and so my question, well, what is it supposed to look like? You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. And, you know, so many of us, I feel, in the different abilities community, you know, those with mobility issues will say that they're treated completely different, because there is so much about that, what people can visibly see and touch and is tangible, you know what I'm saying, versus what they don't know and they can't, you know, what they can't see. Now, Dr. April, did you find that, you know, you talking about it more, did you start with that the same way Dr. Allie did, really expressing to friends and family and stuff as time went on more?
I did it when I really started to speak about it. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you. I didn't start speaking about the fact that my son had autism until last school year, when he was bullied. So a lot of my family members still did not know that I had an autistic child. Even when he would go to visit family and friends, once again, he just looked like your typical kid. But when he was severely bullied last school year, that's when I had gotten to the point where Dr. Allie had gotten, where it was like, I can't be on this island by myself anymore. I need help. And so it was then at age 12 that I finally revealed that my son was on the spectrum. And people were like, what? You have a child that's on the spectrum? And once that conversation started happening, people who I grew up with, you know, on the island, they were like, I have my nephew has autism, you know, all these people who I was like, you have an autistic child? And all these questions started coming, and people were so thankful that I was open and honest with sharing. And when I was sharing, I would honestly, initially, I wasn't trying to share for knowledge. I was crying out for help, you know, because I really didn't know what to do for my son. But in my time of need of crying for help, I think that's when other people felt like it was okay to say that I have an autistic child, because they know who I am as a person. They know the strength that I pose as a person. And they're like, if April can share this story, then I can breathe and finally tell my truth. So, you know, although I did not like, you know, that my son had to go through that process last year, in a way now, in hindsight, a year later, I'm thankful for it, because I have been able to help so many people to heal and to be okay with the process about saying the word autism. Like, it's not a death sentence. It's okay. It's not a death sentence. So, yeah.
And I'll be honest, honestly, I couldn't speak about it initially. So it took a while for me to even say the word autism. Like they were reaching out because they saw the signs, but I didn't want to mention the word because I still was going through my denial, my bargaining, all the different, series of things that we go through when we're dealing with going through stages of grief. And I couldn't say it. So when I started my first program, that was a martial arts program for kids with special needs. And I really started it for Zachary, right? And the more I began having to talk to parents to get them to come to this program, I realized that I was helping myself because I was telling the story of, well, the reason the program is existing is because of my son, because I'm a Black belt. So I was inviting them into the dojo and telling them about my son. And that began the journey. This was 6 years ago. That began the journey of just talking about it. And talking about it and talking about it. So each time I speak about it, as I tell my coaching clients, when I coach you, I coach me. So the more clients I have now, I feel like I'm like, building up in superpower because I can speak about it comfortably, finally.
Right. And, when we talk about it being May being Mental Health Awareness Month and all the campaigns that are going on with like the National Foundation for Suicide Prevention and all of that, their campaign that they kicked off this year is the real convo, having real conversations, talking about it. That is the number one thing that they are hitting on across the board on every single platform for people to do. So, would we say mental health wise as parents, start to embrace that fact of what their new normal is going to be, that conversation and talking about it would be the number one thing for mental health? What do you guys think?
Yeah. We all jumped in at the same time like double edged. Go ahead.
Honestly, I do. I think the more open and honest you are about it, the easier it will become. And I had to learn, sometimes you have to just jump in, even if you're afraid to even say the word. Because just like Dr. Ali said, the more you continue to talk about it, the more you gain knowledge from it, the more you find peace about it, the more you start to see the jewels that comes from your child's unique differences, and the more you start to discover who you are as a person. I will tell people it's because of my son with autism that I was able to complete, 2 degrees within a 4-year period. Something I could not do independently, but just watching him walk through his journey with dignity, even in the face of adversity, I was like, well, April, what's your excuse? You have everything you need. So the more I started talking to him, even though he couldn't talk back to me because he was nonverbal for a period of time. But just the more I just started to connect with him and then share that with other people, the more I just started seeing people starting to replicate it. And I think, for me personally, we have to talk about it for our sanity. Right. We have to, it's okay to talk about it. Like I will continue to say, it's not a death sentence. Because there was a period of time where I thought it was a death sentence. Like all my hopes and dreams and college and militaries and babies and all these different things I had for him, when I was, pregnant with him, I felt like it was all gone. But, when I really just started talking about it, that relief, it's almost like, when you shake a soda bottle and then you try to open it and it all explodes. That's what I felt like initially by not sharing with people. But the more I just started to talk about it and realize that this was not my fault, I didn't do anything wrong, and free myself of the guilt, the more that I just started to feel better. The more the heaviness was lifted, the more the depression was lifted, the easier I became on myself. Now, I will tell you, I still have a little bit of worries like other parents do, because of the journey, but it's not as bad to the point where, I would be waking up in the middle of the night to make sure that he was okay. Now I can finally get some good sleep. So talking about it helped a whole lot.
And then when I got started, I started with a program called Let's Talk Autism, because that was the most annoying part to me, that no one was just talking about it. Like how I am on an interview now, and the first thing I say is, hey, you're going to hear my son in the background, because that's what autism sounds like. I can't tell him to not speak. I can't do the things some parents can do with children that are not on the spectrum. he has his thing. So I began to let the world into what my life really looks like. Not that, movie, fairy tale, I'm going to jump on the interview and everything's going to be silent in the background. No, that is not what parenting autism looks like. So I decided to open up the world into the real life of what it really looks like, into the stimming, into when I don't know what's going to come out of his mouth, into the ups, into the downs. Now, when anyone begins to understand a full picture of what it looks like, it doesn't feel so scary anymore. They'll be able to see, oh, he's actually happy. That's why he's making those movements. That's why he's carrying on with his hands and doing the things that may not be what other children are doing. And a lot of parents with special needs or autism, we go into defense mode. When people are asking questions, it's up to us, and I'm saying this now because we have the cameras on, we have people listening, we have attention on us. It's up to us to inform. Stop taking it personal. Help them to understand what's going on. He's okay. He's regulating. He's okay. This is what he does to make him feel good. It's not what my other kids do, but this is what my Zachary does. And by the time they begin to know a little bit more, then they just say, oh, he's just running up and down. He can't sit still for long. And they begin to understand more of the journey. Talking about it helps people to understand and have less intolerance towards it. So yes, thank you, Tammy. Thank you, April, for opening up this space so that we can just use this platform to inform millions that are going to listen out there just to hear about what our worlds looks like and what our children's lives look like.
Right. And that's why I always like to go back to that beginning journey, because I think that 20 years ago when my son was born, almost 22 years ago, there wasn't social media the way it was, is now. And there wasn't people speaking about things. And now, so much of the time we're out there, but a lot of times when people see people polished, put together, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I have these categories under my name, they think to themselves, like, oh, well, she doesn't understand my journey. She doesn't understand me. And so I love that both of you and your platforms bring the real life, full circle and put it out there, because I think that's what parents need. Now, before we kind of go into kids, I would like to just ask from both sides, or from that school side of it, Dr. April, Dr. Allie, from you working with all different women, across the globe, what would you say are two of the other heavy things for mental health for the parent that you would say are so important to keep on the top of that? Like you were saying, Dr. April, the checklist at school of this, and this. What would you say, aside from, opening up, having conversations, sharing, continuing to share, what would you say those other two things are for mental health in your mind? For everybody it's different.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I think for me, one of the big things that we have to remove is the stigma of seeking therapy. Far too long, people think that therapy is for people who are crazy, and I'm just going to say it as is. Right. But I will be honest with you, being that psychologist who is present happily in therapy, I can say happily in therapy now, it has given me a place to talk judgment free. And I will tell you, as a parent of a child with special needs, you need someone who is not connected to your life, to the process, to what's going on. You need someone who will listen to you. And that is one of the things that I would encourage our parents. Therapy is good talking ground. That's that good coffee, sitting in a coffee shop with your good girlfriend, your good guy friend, and just being open and honest, free from judgment. Another thing that I would say, especially for parents when it comes to the school setting, a lot of times parents don't like to share what's happening within the home environment. And that sometimes then leads into issues that we see at school. And so, like I tell parents, I'm not asking you to air out your entire dirty laundry because, there are certain things that just need to be kept in the closet. But if you know that there's the shift in the home that may be creating issues for your child in school, it's so important so that when you come into those meetings and you're talking to teachers, you're not in that defense mode. You want to come to the school grounds free and clear and mentally sound when you're there. So, like I said, you don't have to share everything, but if there is something that's changed, even people don't even think like a death of a pet is an issue for a child. Trust me, a death of a pet is significant for a child, and that can then impact them at school. So anything that you may feel like has been a shift at home, you want to share with someone that you trust at school. I'm not saying to tell everybody at school, but if there's someone that you trust, share the information so that we know how to best support you at home if you need outside community resources, but also to support your child within the school building.
And two really, really great recommendations. I absolutely love it. Absolutely have a source you can talk to, and definitely let people know behind the scenes what's going on at home. My two would be, number one, self-care. Number one on top of number one on top of number one. If there's one, that one on top of the one. In which and what self-care looks like, it can be different for everyone. What I do a lot of is meditation. I make sure I create a system where first thing I do in the morning is I have 10 to 15 minutes blocked out in my schedule, especially as a coach, speaker, mom, therapist. I'm everywhere. So before I pour into anyone else, and I know many of my listeners are trying to find out what I was going to share today, it's all about meditation. It's all about being still, having a few minutes where you center yourself, really ground yourself, where you're not worrying about the to-do list. You're not worrying about the doctor's appointment, the nutrition, what you have to do, but you're just really grounding yourself back into a space of, I am breathing. So many. And I have a podcast. I am going to share that, if that's okay, where I do meditation techniques for autism moms, because we seem to feel like if we have to have this whole separate world, we have to have lights dim, we have to have this, things that we see on TV. No, you can be in the middle of a breakdown, stop, give yourself a quick meditation moment where you're breathing, being still, collecting yourself, grounding yourself, and then go and deal with the situation at hand. And you'll notice such a difference in your responses when you start creating these meditative moments with yourself. I call them awe meditations because it's different than everyone else's. Ours don't really look like that. It looks like, okay, amidst all of the storm, recollecting yourself and then having what works for you. So number one, finding self-care. And if you can ground yourself with meditation or being still, prayer for some, writing for some, whatever it is that you use to help you to get back to Zen, definitely. And then number two, I'm going to top off on the therapy, coaching, a group, a support group, a tribe. I created tribes because I couldn't find a tribe. I created a martial arts program because I couldn't find one for Zachary. I created my nonprofit because there was none out there talking about wellness for special needs families. So I created a tribe with just autism moms, and we just get on and we just talk about what's going on in life. Like, how was your day? Did you have a disruption? And some space where you can feel okay to share without being judged. And find a tribe, find a group of women. We had an amazing moms retreat 2 weekends ago. And the women that left there said it felt good to have sisterhood. It felt good for us to do stories. And I went personal development style on them. It was not the educational speech, audiology. It wasn't about that, because I can't do business development with you and I can't do professional development with you unless we do personal development first. Right. So we tapped into each other. We tapped into Zen. We created tips and tools and strategies that I learned from my coach, Lisa Nichols, who pours into me these tools, and she specifically clears them so that we can do with moms who are dealing with exceptional needs. So find a tribe, find a space where you can talk to, find some place where you can just be yourself and say, you know what, guess what? Right now, I don't like my child. My child is thoroughly pissing me off. And I know the other person on the other side is not going to judge you. Right. So that is so key. And they walked away from that booked for next year already before we even completed one, because they said, I found home. I found a space I can be me again. And I know I'm going to grow here, because in my tribe, we're not staying at that woe is me level. We're constantly pouring into what else. Now, what else can we do, and how else can we get support? And then how else can we support someone else with the information we're getting? Key. Sorry, I'm a little passionate about this.
I love it. I saw your retreat online, and I'm like, look at them dancing.
We had a blast. They were like, I don't dance. I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to dance. I brought a Broadway star in here for you guys to move. And they were like, oh, wait a minute. I am dancing. They felt so good afterwards. We were playing Taboo, y'all. We had so much fun. That's why they were booked. They're like, we don't even know what it's going to be. The price, just take the down payment because I will be there next year. And who knew that? And I enjoyed myself because I'm that person that I don't create something that I don't enjoy. I'm that authentic. If it's boring to me, I won't create it. Right. So I had to make sure it was something that was going to help them. And then we did some exercises, y'all, that tapped into their past, into their parenting, into the things they've questioned. Listen, I am so proud of the women that came and who they are when they left. And I realized that's what we're missing out there. We're missing a space that we can just release all of that, learn some tools, and then go back out there and be superwoman, the real superwoman.
I love it. And to kind of wrap back around to what you both were, speaking on, sometimes I feel like viewers, when they listen in and they hear, like, Dr. April, I'm like high-fiving you. Everybody needs therapy. Like, therapy is so important for everyone. But I think sometimes when moms, especially in the world of chaos, of different abilities of any kind, maybe if you have a chronically also ill child and you're in the hospital all the time, and the amount of time and minutes that are available to you are very limited. I always encourage parents, if you are seeking psychiatric or counseling for your child, sometimes their psychologist can break the time apart. You know what I'm saying? So if you can't get it all, at least you're getting something. At least you're getting something. So to always wrap back around with them and, see, can that first 20 minutes be me being able to just chat for 20 minutes, 10 minutes beforehand to release. And a lot of times, if they've been in the world of this for a long time, they let you do it anyways. But, if there isn't the minutes there, sometimes that's so promising. And for self-care, I think that sometimes people make a box where they're like, self-care has to be being at the spa all day long, or self-care has to be this. It's like this vision of what it needs to be to say you're taking care of yourself. And literally you could sit in your car for 5 minutes by yourself, and that could be self-care for the moment, that you need, like you're talking, those spurts of meditation. One moment. It doesn't need to be forever. So making it realistic, I think we all are, realistic, that way for parents. Now, for kids, when we talk about, strategies, some of the strategies that the both of you, being in the educational realm, being on the medical, side of things, and being on this journey for quite a long time now, both of you, what do you think at home for some of those strategies are just like your top wins of things that, you feel not only help the mental health within the house, keep things a little bit more on the, calm side, but are kind of a win-win for the parents? Do you guys have any strategies that you guys use on a regular basis with your kiddos?
So for me, the key thing I do with Zachary is I help him to identify his own strengths so he doesn't get to play off on weaknesses. Right? So we know weaknesses exist in autism, but we also forget to mention there are a lot of strengths that come along with it. So helping him to tie into his strengths and really empower him. Like, I wrote Amazing Gift for him. It has his picture on it. It was my 40th birthday present to him because I wanted him to see, no matter what, baby, you are amazing. And we do our affirmations. I am amazing. I am awesome. I am, because he has to pour into himself just as how I've learned to pour into myself. So that has worked a lot with us. Communication will always be on top of my list. I mean, of course, as communication expert over here, I will always tap into listening to whatever they're saying and not saying.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And Dr. April?
So for me, one of the things that I had to learn to do was, to talk to my son about his superpowers. how autism is a superpower, but helping him to identify those weaknesses. But we don't call them weaknesses. We call them his kryptonite, because he's really big into Superman and all the superheroes. And when we discussed it that way, he was clearly able to identify those things that make him gifted because of his autism, and then those things that are barriers. Something that we also utilized was a lot of meditation music. So I was never one who was into the chakra music, but it seemed like as we just went through the process, I don't know what's in the music, but it keeps him so grounded and so at peace. So we've done those meditation music that really, really helps for him. And then some other things that we've done recently, now that he knows what his strengths are, his superpowers, and his kryptonite, he will not come and ask me to ground him, and that comes from all of the process in the chakra music. So he'll come and he'll hold my face and say, "Mommy, I need you to ground me." And so me holding his face and looking at him in his eyes and say, "I see you. I am here with you. We are in this together." That just helps him to say, "Okay, you can let me go now. I'm okay." But it took us a while to get to that process. And, once again, like one shoe doesn't always fit, but these are the things that work for him. And that's what we learn to do. And like I tell parents, and it didn't cost anything. I think that's one of the big things. We always think we have to spend all these money on these sensory tools and all that stuff. Right. And we have everything we need right home. I never thought chakra music would have helped. YouTube is free and it worked. Just get some headphones, So you kind of sort of have to play around with stuff. But yeah, those are the things that we do for our entire house family, and it works.
And I think that speaks to when we're talking about developing tribes, being part of a tribe, support groups, online groups that, formulate, you know what, you extract from them the things that work for you. Just because it's brought up doesn't mean it's going to work for your kiddo or for yourself. They're suggestions. But the more that you do it, it's all trial and error. I mean, really it is. It's like, oh my gosh, this works so good for our family. And hearing other families' journeys and their stories really lend you to that and give you so much good, good info that way. Now, I want to give the both of you, kind of a moment to talk a little bit about, on both your platforms, you guys have been talking about mental health. And I know, Dr. Ali, especially, you're on your day. Which day is it? Is it day 21? No, it's day 15. Is it day 8?
Sorry, day 8. 21 days of mental health.
Yes. And so, the message that you're sending across to your tribes and your communities, as we look at Mental Health Awareness Month, what is the most important thing, that you would want this audience right here at the On Air Advocate, your own audience, to hear as we're in, we're kind of in the mid of this month now. And, statistically, when we throw out statistics, we know that the more time that goes on, how important mental health is, that now it's even being incorporated into high schools and into curriculum. People are realizing that suicide, is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. And so that means that we're not talking about it. That's why the campaign is out there, to have the real conversations. And so I know before the show started, I chatted with you, you ladies a little bit about the space of being a caregiver and my fears with that. When we look at that in society, how long somebody is a caregiver, what does that really look like, especially for us on our lifelong journeys. But for you guys, what would you say that your message is for this month to families and parents out there? I know it's a big question.
You're gonna get me.
You're the psychologist. Let's train on this one.
You know what? My big thing to tell my audience and just the audience in general, don't be afraid to ask for help. The reason why so many things go awry in society and with our kids and with our parents is because we're too afraid to ask for help. Now is not the time. to be timid. Now is not the time to be silent. Because as you said, we are seeing more and more and more suicide rates increasing. And one of the things, and like I said, working in schools, I am literally hearing 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and 9-year-olds talking about that they want to end their lives. And here I am at 44 asking myself, what have you done in your life where you feel like your life is not worth living? And more times than not, these kids don't believe that they are impacting the world. And I'm like, you're only 7, you're only 8, you're only 9. Enjoy being a kid. But when they look at social media and what other people are doing, they're feeling like they're not contributing to society the way they should based on what they're seeing. And so that's why I tell parents, talk to your kids. And what I mean by talk to your kids, not in judgment, not, with a, you need to do this or you need to do that. Just be open and honest with them. If there are certain fears that you have, that's something that I've had to do with my own kids. I talk about my fears, and let them know that it's okay to have fears, just don't get stuck in them. So we have to talk, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Like I tell people, there are going to be some people that you're not going to want into your space. If you are uncomfortable talking to certain people, then my recommendation would be to, seek a therapist, seek a counselor. If you really don't support that, seek a professional development coach. But you have to talk. We have to talk and ask for help. We cannot do this by ourselves. If we do, it's going to drive us crazy after a while, unfortunately. And I know for a lot of people, that's not what they want. So for me to share with your listening audience, ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. It's a good thing to ask for help.
Yes.
Yes, yes. That HELP word that some of us think it's a curse word that we choose not to use, including myself. What I would ask you and what I specifically spoke about is unsubscribing from negativity. And it's going to tap into what Dr. April was just mentioning, where we surround ourselves with so many negative people around. And I would always go back to when I was younger, and most of us when we were younger, our parents didn't understand the importance of their words on us, and how some of the things they've said, how it disheveled us, and it took us in a complete opposite way or a down spiral, and they didn't even realize that's what they were doing with their words. So if we can create a space within our home, within our household of what is negative, what is positive, when you're feeling a certain way, it's okay to feel how you're feeling, but how do we shift ourselves out of that and start teaching them these tools young? I didn't learn this until I was grown. And then once I learned it, I was like, everybody needs to know this. You need to know how to shift out of negative. How you can get yourself back into a positive frame mind. How when you don't really like yourself, how to get yourself back into liking yourself, knowing that how they think about me has absolutely nothing to do with me. Your likes have nothing to do with how I feel about myself. Whether you choose to like my post or not, oh well. I know what I did is what I needed to do for myself. So unsubscribing from the negativity in terms of your thoughts, your words, your surroundings, your environment, and start creating a positive space in your home. And this can go for any families. I know it can go, but for our kids, we have a lot extra that we're dealing with. And we have a lot of bullying, like Dr. April mentioned. We have kids thinking certain things, adults thinking certain things about people when they look physically different or when they act physically different. So we have to help our children on learning the right tools, how to help themselves to navigate through this process. So when we're not there to defend them, they don't want to A, recluse into themselves, or B, run away. Help and empower them of how do we help to shift this matter from something negative to, you know what, right now, your thoughts have absolutely nothing to do with how I feel about myself. I think I am absolutely amazing. And sometimes it works in the opposite. Zachary has a really big ego now, but he still questions himself at times. And I help him to work himself through those things. Well, him watching Thomas as a 13-year-old, the kids teased him because Thomas is a cartoon. Thomas the tank engine, not the train. And they're teasing me. And he felt completely horrible about that. And then I told him, I'm like, well, they said it's baby stuff. Are you a baby? He's like, no. I said, how old are you? He says, I'm 12. I said, so apparently it's 12-year-old stuff too, because you're 12. So he was like, oh. So just teaching them the strategies and how to work through some of those things. Unsubscribe from negativity and subscribe to positivity in your household, and start teaching the tools.
Unsubscribe from negativity. That's going to be my post after this. Unsubscribe from it. Ask for help. And then 2 things to add to that, you know, for those when we're asking for help and we're looking for people that are within our community and our tribe, you know, we might be listening today and talking about autism, talking about different abilities. And you're like, well, my kid specifically has this and I can't find someone. Know that there are resources out there that you can. So, you know, different groups, like even in the On Air Advocate community group, there is parents that have conditions across the board. Type in the condition. Find who is a member in that group that, you know, their child has that condition, or their elderly loved one, or, you know, or their adult. There's also across the United States parent to parent, where they connect you across the nation with other parents that have those same, you know, conditions, whether that be a rare condition, you know what I'm saying, or not, to help you to find synergy, you know, with others as well. So the unsubscribing to negativity, asking for help, that, and always knowing that you're not alone, and it's okay to not be okay. Would you guys agree with that too? It's okay to say you're not okay. I think sometimes that is something that is left out too. We feel like we need to be super parents all the time, and we need to openly just say, we're not okay. And that's all right. So on that, I want to kind of wrap up because we're getting to almost an hour, and I probably could throw about 50 more questions out here, but we'll have to do that at another time. So I would like you guys to just leave the audience a little bit with maybe what's next. I don't know if either one of you have any new books, upcoming, you know, conferences, things like that coming up. Things new in the, you know, in the pipeline, also where they can find you. We're going to drop all those links below after that as well, but I'd love for you guys to just share before we log off. She's like, you.
Alrighty, so I do have 3 books that are online at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. One is, you know, talking about balancing what it means to work and parent a child with special needs, as well as one that really looks at bullying and special needs children. During the month of July, I will actually be speaking at Cowboy Stadium at the Run Women's Conference with Les Brown, so I'm excited about that. So that will be July 20th in Dallas, Texas. So it's the Runs Women's Conference. So if you can be there, that would be wonderful. As well as in October, location to be determined, but it will be in Atlanta, Georgia. And that will be the Dare to Dream Women's Empowerment Conference. So I'm really excited about that as well. Really talking about, you know, this process of healing as a special needs parent, while going through the process of discovering who you are and empowering who you are as a person. So
I love that. And after this, will you be able to drop those links below in the
yes. I will drop all that good information. Yes.
Awesome. All right.
What do I have coming up? As usual, I have my, what don't I have coming up? I'm out here. I'm out here in the streets. I'm international. I'm just trying to get the information of acceptance and empowering our amazing moms, special needs moms. So I do have my podcast, the Dr. Ali Griffith Show. We just hit number 1,000 downloads within 5 weeks. Within 5 weeks. So we are out there talking. It's about mindset, meditation, motivation. It's about a lot of good stuff. I also have my Ignite Amazing Nation. It's a support group, a virtual support group that you can join in from anywhere. That's out there. I have a business mastermind where I'm constantly giving them the tools. Dr. April is one of my business mastermind students. That's why I had to come in here and support her and make sure she shine, because that's what it really is for me. It's not about me only growing. It's easy for me as one person to grow because I'm just a beast and I'm a freak of nature, and I don't know. But I also believe in taking what we learn and then going out there and empowering others and giving them the tools, the strategies from Steve Harvey, the strategies from Lisa Nichols, Susie Carter, all these people that God has, yes, I'm going to call him God, who is aligned in my life. I take their tools and I come out there, I teach business strategies, how to go out there and take your public relations, your social media, your marketing, your branding to that next level, because I want all my special needs moms, although I also have other moms that popped in. So that was just to whoever wants to start, but it's mostly dedicated for those with special needs children, although the others come in. We call them the others, but we all want to create a legacy, and they have to be within the integrity of my brand, which is authentic, which is within integrity, and which is going out there and empowering the world with your gifts. If they don't have that and they're just out there for making money, don't come to me, don't even look at me. I'm not interested in you. I just want to help our message, your message, to go out there globally and give you the tools to maximize that.
I love it. And so can you drop some of those links to like the support group and stuff below? Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. It has been a joy and a pleasure to have the both of you on the show. I'm so thankful for all the information that you have shared with our audience tonight. And hopefully we will do this again another time and have some different topics that we will tackle. So with that, thank you, ladies, very much. If you guys want any more information about all the services that the On Air Advocate offers, you can head on over to onairadvocate.com, and they're all right there. And if you would like to become part of our private community, head up to the top of this Facebook page, hit the blue button, and that will let you into our private group. So on that note, you all have a fabulous evening. Thank you so much, ladies. Bye-bye. Remember, take care of you. Take care of you.
I have like dancing music now.
All right.